I know it's been a while since we've dropped some theory and lore content, but hey, here we are, and we've made it to the next expedition of that exploration, lore, and theory crafting here in the channel that we love making so much. Now, as always, we'll try to keep things a bit fresh and unique around here. When you go through my video library, you'll see a good amount of content related to the most famous Star Wars portal, the World Between Worlds. And it's a portal, if you will, where the person who enters it is transported to a place between all time, where a person can see different events happening all at once, and in theory, traverse that time by stepping through any particular doorway. To me, it was no coincidence that Vader may have had access to something similar within his castle, though it's referred to differently here, as a vault, but I digress. Before moving forward, it's worth mentioning that Dave Filoni, one of the original creators and writers of the World Between Worlds concept, has stated that if someone were to fully go through the portal, they would essentially be destroying themselves. So the idea of time travel becomes tricky, if not implausible, because how could you time travel if the act itself destroys you? Well, based on what we know, the World Between Worlds seems more like a looking glass, a place to observe history, almost like a living history book, where we watch events unfold, hopeful to learn from them, to do better in the future, or even to let go of that same past. But wait, hold on, the video title doesn't mention the World Between Worlds, and that's because it isn't about that portal. This is about another one, a different kind of gateway, revealed in a rather shocking turn of events during the Legacy of Vader comic run by Charles Soule. Now, as you may know, I'm not the biggest sequel fan, but I'd be lying if I said some of the issues in this particular run following Kylo's journey of self-exploration aren't great. They really are. And what makes some of these issues even more intriguing are these godlike elements woven throughout the story. So with that being said, let's explore the structure together, the voice that beckons, and what may lie on the other side. As the story explores Kylo's journey, we eventually find ourselves on Mustafar again, towards the series' conclusion. And if you want to follow along, examine things for yourself, or just make your own theories, especially considering today's discussions, I'd encourage you to read The Legacy of Vader issues 10, 11, and 12, as our main theory will be deriving from those issues. Now, when we meet Kylo Ren again, we see that he's being escorted and in many ways groomed by Vader's old servant, Vinay, now more like a caretaker of his castle. So obviously here you can see that Vinay is much more machine than man now, living at the mercy of his complex suit, barely holding together, much like Vader himself, perhaps a spiritual nod of sorts. But there's far more to Vinay and who he truly is, so if you want to learn more about that, I've left a link up top explaining his origins and how he became this monstrosity that we see before us. Now, lo and behold, Kylo Ren comes to learn of Vader's vault. As we all know, Kylo is deeply obsessed with Vader, but at this point in his journey, he's less interested in idolization and more focused on uncovering secrets, while still believing the idea of letting the past die. Upon learning about the vault, Kylo presses Vinay for answers, and Vinay explains that he himself has never entered it. Only Vader ever did, or at least we're led to believe. So a quick word of caution here. This is where things start to become complex, a little trippy, and in some ways subjective. What I'm about to explain is very much open to interpretation, and ultimately it's up to you to decide what's really happening. Kylo Ren in all his power and with his hubris at the helm decides to enter the portal without protest from Vinay. As hinted at in the comic panels, it appears that Kylo's mind begins to twist and melt. However, upon entry, Kylo seemingly emerges on the other side, or so it appears, because I dispute that interpretation based on what happens in the next slide. After exiting, Kylo assumes that this was nothing more than trickery, but Vinay explains that Vader would often meditate afterwards, within his chamber to gain that clarity. So Kylo does the same, hoping to find the answers he seeks. Now, in my theory, I believe Kylo is actually already inside Vader's vault. This is all a part of the inside. And let's be honest and call it what it truly is, Vader's portal on Mustafar. Because what happens next when Kylo enters his dreamlike inception, a dream within a dream, inside the portal, it's actually shocking. And it shows us something we've never quite seen before in Star Wars, the Force, or at least not in this light. Upon awakening, Kylo finds himself in a heaven-like state, overlooking Force ghosts within an ancient, almost mythic landscape. Is this the realm where those who have learned to transcend death exist? Is this where they train, confer, or commune with the living? All fascinating questions to keep in mind as we move forward. Now, interestingly enough, the first Force ghost Kylo Ren encounters, let's call him Ghost 1, remarks to Kylo, "How have you come here? The dark burns within you. You should have not been able to come here. You should not be here." As Kylo continues forward, Luke Skywalker then emerges from the background, someone who at this point has clearly drawn Kylo's deepest ire. I won't go over the dialogue line by line, but in short, it centers on Kylo's ruminations about Rey's success and his unresolved resentment towards Luke. In the end, Luke simply dismisses Kylo. And when he's dismissed, Kylo then wakes up in a swamp. Almost kind of looks like Dagobah. And he's greeted here by a large looming figure that appears to be Palpatine, who accuses him of attempting to turn towards the light. Palpatine strikes Kylo down, and when Kylo finally awakens once more, he's bloodied and battered, physically scarred from whatever truly occurred inside the chamber. Now, interestingly enough, and as further evidence that this truly is Vader's personal portal, or that Kylo is reliving some version of what Vader himself once experienced, perhaps hinting at a deeper familial connection, we see parallels in Vader's own search for answers. Vader too sought guidance from light side figures like Padme, only to be equally punished by Palpatine for attempting to turn back. As this issue wraps up, Kylo is laid down to recover from his injuries. And in the following issue, this is where we finally get a more definitive answer as to what lies beyond in that portal. And no gimmicks, this isn't theory crafting, this is actually what happens in the comic issue. So Kylo exits the bacta tank early, and after being put through one final trial by Vinay, enters the portal once more. As he peers into it, a voice beckons him asking, "Are you afraid?" as Kylo steps into the mouth of the abyss. Upon his entry, he is greeted by what appears to be Vader, and after exchanging cryptic dialogue, Vader tells him, "This experience will mean nothing to you now. It may mean everything later." As the riddlesome exchange continues, Vader begins to morph into a towering giant, and the world within the portal takes on the shape of yet another dreamlike state, as so we're led to believe, but something's off. As the dialogue continues, this version of Vader begins speaking about Vader in the third person. It becomes clear that this is not truly Vader at all. And once that truth is revealed, the figure removes his helmet, revealing himself to be another version of Kylo Ren. Perhaps this is the Kylo Ren who once aspired to become Vader, before the events of The Last Jedi, and his transformation under the let the past die philosophy. Once again, Kylo is confronted with another version of himself, this time a light side version, dressed in Jedi attire. As they converse, Ben reveals Kylo's true fear. At the end of their conversation, the figure, presumably Ben Solo, tells Kylo to move forward, to make his own choices, and finally warns him, "Be careful what you wish for." Kylo becomes distraught, having hoped for more from the portal. As Ben utters those final words, he snaps his fingers, flinging Kylo out of the portal and back into Mustafar. Our final shot shows Kylo falling towards the lava-scarred land below, while interestingly enough, what appears to be the Force ghost of Ben Solo watches over him, before fading away. And yes, that's a lot to follow, so for a deeper, more thorough look, again, I highly recommend reading that Legacy of Vader series by Charles Soule. Fully flesh out your own interpretation of what actually happened. But the question yet remains, what kind of portal are we really dealing with here? Well, in my eyes, this may be something far more sinister than the world between worlds. Unlike the world between worlds, this portal could be a reflection of one's own mind, an inward descent into the deepest parts of oneself, where one's greatest fears stay. And that idea would align perfectly with the Sith, who draw their power from fear itself. And interestingly enough, it makes me think back to The Last Jedi, when Rey goes into that dark, mysterious cave, whose entrance is actually reminiscent of the portal here, where she also stares deep into the portal and sees her own fears, and realizes her greatest truth, that she's a nobody. As for my theory, I think this might be less of a portal to a physical place and more of a gateway to introspection. Or is it? After all, we do see Kylo commune with Force ghosts, experiencing a realm no one else reached quite the way that he did, especially as a dark side user, and quite frankly, I don't think I can really remember anyone reaching this plane that way. Or perhaps that encounter was only possible through the power of Luke's Force Ghost. Or again, was it? Ultimately, this remains unanswered as we wait to see whether Kylo Ren's future adventures shed more light on what this portal truly is. More importantly, I want to know what you think. Is this dark side portal akin to the world between worlds? Are they connected in some way, or is this something entirely different? Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Be wary of the roads you choose to walk. You may end up somewhere you never thought possible. And until next time, everyone, stay safe out there, and may the Force be with you always.